Hello comic book fans, here's Earl Grey. Today I want to talk about these two stories here, both written by Jodorowsky. And if you have watched my earlier Jodorowsky kind of reviews, you know that there is one red thread going on, and that's his esoteric stuff, which I don't dig too much. But there's a lot of, usually there's a lot of other things that are to like about Jodorowsky's stories. So I tend to get everything of him. So same with this flea market find here. Alef thau. It's supposed to be the other big series of Jodorowsky, aside of the incal, but let's get this straight. The incal is much better, because maybe it's grounded in the sci-fi world, and John DeFool is a bit a more interesting character than the character in this story. This is the artist, this is Jodorowsky in his younger days, and the book here is for those of you who are interested, the first edition from 1986. So we have here a little, the art is amazing, done in this Moebius vein, but you can have worse models, I think, and he didn't swipe Moebius, in my opinion, but he did just the art in the style of Moebius, and that's in a very detailed manner, and I appreciate this a lot. In the center is this character here, Alef thau, who has no arms and no legs, but is the hero because of his mind, or better, his magical power in later issues. So the message is clear. Our mind is the most important thing and what drives the world and the story here. But there's so much esoterics, and in it, it drove me mad. Really, I found the art. I ate it up. The art is fantastic, but hey, man, what could Arno have done in the same time with a more decent, more logical story? Because one thing with the esoterics is, what really annoys me are not so much the stories in that way, but the people in the real world who collect crystals and will tell you that there is some real truth to it with aura and the different kind of energies. And if you are more scientifically interested just a bit, then you know that this is all rubbish, but these people believe it, and I'm not tolerant, and I'm tolerant in many ways, but that's a part of me. Yeah, I don't know why I get so angry with this stuff, but I do. And the story here looks a bit like a Corbin story, Dan, drawn by Moebius, and combining two fantastic worlds with flying creatures and stuff like I usually dig. But story-wise, there's an astral body of the main hero floating around, and every time you think, okay, that's a bit reasonable, and what happens next? And then you see something, boom, out of the magic world will happen, which doesn't make sense. Here we have some flashback or some relation, obviously, to the incal. Not really story-wise, but it's the same kind of thing here with all the eggs. Somewhere between the motherly inner space, which was the name of a mountain, and some talking crystal sword, I was out of it. I couldn't read this stuff here on any longer, and I put it away for sometimes when I was more calm. more tolerant about it. And it came, and I've actually read this, the whole stuff here, and I have a second guess about it, which is not so negative. But it took me this way around through the White Llama to understand maybe a bit better what Jodorowsky wanted with this story here. So the White Llama, drawn by George Bess, has great art as well. Art that can pull you through the story even if you are not fine with any plot, trope, and everything that's happening in the story. Wait, if you can see, here's some picture of Mr. Bess or Monsieur Bess. So as you can see, this is maybe a bit Moebius-y, reminds us a bit of Moebius as well, but is really original enough to stand completely on its own. And what's more important, it looks beautiful, but as you can see here, there's some things happen here that can't be explained with our rational scientific approach as well. And it's of course silly to say that in stories nothing can happen or is allowed to happen that can't happen in the real world. Of course, therefore we tell stories to tell something miraculous, something wondrous, stuff that can't happen. People flying around, people have magic powers and stuff like that. If it's not so cliche, if you know what I mean. In Alef, thau we have almost an encyclopedia of stuff that can happen in fantasy stories. From the dwarf to the wise old man to the crystal power stuff to levitation, people flying around, astral bodies, foreseeing the future. You name it, you get it. It's just too much. Here in the White Llama, it's grounded in this in Tibet and Tibetan folklore. I would doubt that everything there looks so colorful and beautiful like it is here. Just makes fun to read it, and even when people are flying around just because of the power of their minds and stuff like that, I think, okay, you would have done it differently, but this is Jodorowsky. You are in for some crazy shit going on, of course, and yeah, so deal with it or stop reading. And even if there is some Yeti here, it's just comic book fun. I've read The White Llama and said to myself, hey, Alef, thau can't be that bad. Try it again. And then I started with a different mindset. I was in a bad mood, let's put it that way, in my belief about humanity in a big sense, and maybe questioning myself, why can't we be more than we are? I'm totally satisfied with my life, yada yada, but there are some days where when you question some situations. Why are people so greedy? Why can't people be, oh, this sounds terrible, naive, but why can't we be better? And if you read this book with this kind of question in your mind, it's really a bit kind of answer to it. On the one way, it's escapism galore. You can lose yourself in the stuff here, and it's all about the question, how can we be better? The answers are, of course, totally something you can't use in the real world, but at least these questions are asked. I don't know if I make any sense, but this good against bad thing should be sometimes a bit more a topic in our everyday life. Now I really start preaching here. My granddad was a preacher, and I am actually totally an atheist, but sometimes these preaching genes take over. It's of course a moral metaphor. The whole story is some kind of moral metaphor, and a very colorful and beautiful to look at. So this time I really enjoyed one. I enjoyed slowly the story involving he getting his limbs back, and he's getting his girl, his princess. I was down with that. And then he arrives on a planet of illusions. But at a certain point, here all these fine monsters here. At a certain point, it was only just astral bodies fighting astral bodies, and nothing was real anymore. One layer above the other layer, and kitsch took over. Even though, look at this panel here, this page here. Beautiful to look at again and again. I can't repeat myself in that regard too often. But then we have all this esoteric stuff. And to be honest with you, I haven't read the last 2 albums from cover to cover or word by word. I've looked at every panel, and I think I figured out the story pretty good. But I couldn't read the text here. Because it's so, like, again, an encyclopedia of esoteric fantasy stuff. Yeah, maybe it's something for you, I guess, if you are more into this a Lord of the Rings stuff, and I've heard a lot of you are, then it's probably fine with you, more fine than with me. So, that's for now. Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.